Hi, I'm Dr. Vijay. In this lecture, we'll try to learn about orientation and socialization. After taking this lecture, you should be able to define orientation, list the basic elements of orientation. You will also be able to define socialization, or we can say what the socialization is all about. You will be able to answer the question, when do we conduct these processes? Explain the stages of socialization. You will be able to discuss about the benefits and the difficulties faced in implementation of these processes. Finally, you will be able to measure the effectiveness of these processes. Let's move to our first outcome, that's defining orientation. According to Edward B. Filippo, orientation is the welcoming process to make the new employee feel at home and generate in him a feeling of belongingness to the organization. Now, please understand that once an individual is selected for a job and has accepted the appointment, there is an urgent need to make him familiar with the organization, its culture, product, etc., so that he or she can work to his highest potential. Hence, we carry on the orientation and socialization programs. If we look at the definition, there are three main keywords, or the three main elements that has been observed, that has been quoted by the Edward B. Filippo. The first one is that it is a welcoming process. The second key element or the key word is to make new employee feel at home, and the third one is to generate a feeling of belongingness towards the organization. So basically they are helping people to have a feeling of belongingness so that one could have, or one could come up with their best potential and with their best efficiencies. Okay, there are two types of orientation program that has been usually observed, the formal one and the informal one. Informal, usually referred to as structured also, a sequence is followed, and this has been carried out mostly in the big firms or the MNCs. However, the informal one is a kind where there is no sequence, and under informal or the informal kind of orientation program has been observed in small firms like a small proprietary firm or related. Okay, let's move to the elements of orientation, or we can say what shall be included in an orientation program. Okay, we shall include information about the organization history, basically saying how it all started, when it started, who started it, what was the vision, what is the mission, how about the culture, what are the difficulties faced, what are the different phases of the organization. Such information shall be provided to the new employer, the newcomer. Information pertaining to the company's product and services shall also be included into an orientation program. The structure of the company. Structure usually helps a new employee to understand who needs to be contacted in difficult times, or who is his or her immediate authority, etc. So there are many answers that a new employee gets once the structure is clear to him during an orientation program. Different rules and regulations needs to be again conveyed to the newcomer. Those are to be followed till the time he is working there as an employee. Apart from this, new employees' jobs, duties and responsibility that shall also be conveyed to him. Apart from this, we shall also include the information about critical organization policies, like pertaining to sexual harassment. That's a very important area, and one annual report by Comply Cairo Services that has been taken from BSc 100 companies showed that a 14% increase in reports of sexual harassment complaints in financial year 2019 in India. That's a very alarming figure. Similarly, the information pertaining to the corruption As we have observed in the Indian Corruption Survey 2019, which is based on 1,90,000 responses from people in 248 districts, that states that 51% Indians paid bribe in the last 12 months. That's also a very bad figure. Okay. When companies, now please understand, when companies work on policies like zero tolerance corruption and the policies like zero tolerance in sexual harassment, such critical information becomes very vital and must be made part of the induction program. Okay, so these are some of the informations or the areas which shall be made part of the induction program. Let's move to the socialization. Let's understand what the socialization is all about. Okay, see, the socialization is again a process of adaptation by which employees are able to understand about the company, its value system, beliefs, policies, etc., to become the accepted member of the company. Basically saying that the new employee has been accepted by the existing of the organization and they have developed a sense of belongingness. So this is what we are talking about as socialization, that we are making people familiar and the people in the organization or the employees in the organization are welcoming or are accepting the new employees as their team member or as part of the organization. Okay, that's a socialization process. Now let's see the different types of the socialization. The different types has been discussed by means of the comparison, and the first one is the formal versus informal. I guess there is no need to discuss about this. This is very simplistic in nature. Okay, moving to the second one, the collective versus individual. Under collective, what we do is we group the newcomers and expose them to a common set of experience. Got the idea? That what we are doing in collective is we are grouping the newcomers. Whosoever has joined in as a new employee, all of them are being grouped and they are being exposed to common set of experiences. Okay, whereas in case of individual, we treat each newcomer or each new employee individually and expose them to more or less unique experiences. Usually individual type of socialization is carried at departmental level. Collective kind of socialization is done at organization level, where we are conveying about the organization, the complete organization, the culture of the organization. And at department level, there is a possibility that how we are carrying on the things, how the task being carried on. So over there, unique experience are being shared with the different employees who are being recruited recently. Okay, moving to the third type of socialization, that is sequential versus non-sequential. Sequential refers of discrete and identifiable stages. Okay, kindly understand. It refers to series of discrete and identifiable stages through which an individual must pass in order to achieve a defined role and status. Okay, whereas in case of non-sequential, individual achieve position immediately. Okay, in sequential, what we said is that a newcomer or a new employee need to go through different stages or need to take multiple level of trainings in order to attain a particular role or status. Whereas in non-sequential, the individual achieves the position immediately. For example, a 3 months training program is compulsory to become a branch or bank branch manager. Okay, so when an individual comes and join or being recruited for the post of bank branch manager, he is being sent for the 3 month training program. This is basically an example of the non-sequential kind of socialization where the individual achieves its position immediately. He has been recruited on the post of the bank branch manager, though a 3-month training program he needs to do so that he could understand how exactly the branch or how exactly the bank works. Okay, moving ahead with the fixed versus variable. When we say fixed, in this, employees are aware, or the employees knows when the transition period gets over, whereas in variable the length of the transition period varies from individual to individual. Okay, let's move ahead with the investor versus divestor. The word investor and divestor itself reflects as investor, it has come up from investment. Okay, under this what we do is we reinforce the uniqueness of the individual. Okay, kindly understand, what we do is in investor is we reinforce the uniqueness of the individual and use that uniqueness or that quality of his or her for his growth and for the growth of the organization too. Okay, got the idea? So basically, in case of investor, we are investing into an individual's uniqueness so that he can grow and our company can also grow. Okay, in case of divestor, it is opposite to the investor. We suppress, as we were reinforcing in investor, we are suppressing in divestor the certain characteristics of the individual like attitude, high self-confidence, and we try to replace it with other values of the organization so that he becomes an acceptable member of the organization. Okay, now let's understand the stages in socialization. Broadly, whensoever we talk about the stages in socialization, we refer to the 3 stages. The first one is the pre-arrival stage, the second is the arrival stage, and third one is the transformation stage. Or the transformation stage is you seen positive or negative. If the transformation of an individual is positive, the probable outcome would be that he'll be going towards high productivity, he'll have higher commitment, and there is a low possibility of turnover rate or low turnover rate will be observed. However, in case there is a negative transformation of a new employee or a newcomer, will observe low productivity, lower commitment, higher turnover rate, and related outcomes. Okay, now please understand, when we are referring to the stages in socialization, pre-arrival is altogether or pre-arrival is not exactly a stage of the socialization. Okay, let me take an example. Let's understand the 3 stages by means of an example. Let Mr. A is a person. Let Mr. A has a perception that company ABC, company being named as ABC, provides, Mr. A has a perception that company ABC provides job security, regular training, and allows to implementation of innovations. These are the 3 perception that Mr. A has towards company ABC. The 3 perception of Mr. A towards ABC are that the company ABC provides job security, regular training, and allows the implementation of innovations. Okay, that's basically a pre-arrival stage that he perceives about one organization, and on basis of this perception, now Mr. A tries to join company ABC because he always wanted job security, regular training so that he could grow, and he wanted to implement his innovative ideas into or at his workplace. So on basis of that, Mr. A tries to join company ABC and succeeds to become a member or succeeds to become an employee in ABC. Now comes up the second stage, that's the arrival stage. Now the employee has come to the organization. Now this is the time, this is a very critical time. This is the time which will define whether Mr. A will move towards positive transformation or towards negative transformation. Okay, let's understand. If the gap is high in pre-arrival perception and the reality of the company that he will encounter when he will enter into the arrival stage, and when the induction and socialization process are being carried, or when he will actually face the life situations in the organization, then Mr. A will move towards the negative transformation. Basically saying, if the gap is high between what he expected and what exactly that he received in the organization, there is a very high probability and will definitely move towards the negative transformation. And what we'll observe at the end of the day is low productivity from Mr. A, lower commitment towards the company from Mr. A, and there is a high possibility that he will leave our organization and will search some other organization to pursue his career, or basically we could say that higher turnover rate could be observed there. However, if the gap is less in between the pre-arrival perceptions and the arrival when he enters into the organization, Mr. A will definitely move towards the positive side of the transformation. He will be highly productive, he will be very committed, and he will not leave the organization, and thereby low turnover rate will be observed in that case. Hence, we can also say that we try to reduce this gap basically saying the pre-arrival and the arrival, the pre-arrival perception and what exactly that he gets into the organization by means of these processes. Okay, got the idea that how the different stages in socialization moves on. Okay, then we have the benefits and the difficulties. When we talk about the benefits of the social induction and the socialization programs or the processes, we say the belongingness to the company will be there, will be increased. Increased understanding will be seen as a benefit of these, or by referring to increased understanding, we are saying that it will help to provide real-time communication. These processes also help the newcomer to interact with the authority and related, so thereby his understanding about the company will be raised or will be increased. The conflicts are usually being observed being reduced, and reduced role ambiguity and the overall growth will be observed. These are the some of the benefits. There are certain difficulties that we face, that includes lack of interest in the supervisors, insufficient planning resources and the time, etc., because of which many times we have seen that the two processes fails and the expected outcomes do not come to us. Okay, let's understand how to measure the effectiveness, whether the work that's being carried on was effective or that was not effective. There are two broad ways to measure the effectiveness. The first one is employee survey. In this, we take feedback from the employee, okay, from the new employee, from the existing employee, and assess the same to measure their satisfaction level, their involvement level, their innovativeness, their interest and related. Okay, and the second one is the performance rating. Okay, in performance rating, in this we see how the performance of the individual, whether the increasing, it is constant or decreasing. Okay, so these are the two major means of measuring the effectiveness of the two programs. Okay, with this we wind up our lecture. Hope you enjoyed the lecture. Please feel free to write a feedback on my mail ID. Thanks for patience learning. Thank you.